What happens when Skynet decides that the best way to take care of humanity is not to take out John Connor, but instead eliminate other key figures in the resistance? Let's find out in Terminator Vol.1 Out of Time. Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for the first volume in the collection, Terminator Out of Time. This is a new book from Dynamite Comics, and the collection, including 5 different issues, is out now, where you can check it out at your comic shop. Yeah, very different. A lot of stuff going on in this one. So, I think I'm gonna talk about the overall synopsis, and then I'll just kind of go into each issue individually. So, luckily for you, you don't have to read this collection as a whole. There's a bit of a true line, especially if you want to get the backup story in each issue. But we'll talk about that as well. So, in this book, Skynet escalates its war on humanity by sending Terminators to various eras and locations, not only to hunt Sarah and John Connor, but to eliminate resistance figures, their ancestors, and anyone caught in the crossfire. Opening a new front in the war, Terminators are dispatched across the globe and through time. When all of history becomes a war zone, no war, nowhere, and no when is safe. That's very, very cool. I love that. So the volume itself gets the name from the first issue, which is the Out of Time story. This opens on 1979 with a newlywed couple, Harper and Penny, are on the run after a mysterious attacker begins hunting them down, and in their desperation, they escape to Alaska via a plane after a violent crash. Now, jumping ahead to 2018, the same couple has lived off the grid for decades until finally a T-800 Terminator emerges from the lake outside of their cabin with the intent on finishing the mission. This is a really fun story. This is actually a story that I have reviewed prior in the channel when the book first came out. You can go check that out for more of my thoughts on that. But it's really cool. I really enjoyed how we had. I think Declan Shalvey really understands what I want to like. What I, as a Terminator fan, want to see. That may not be what everybody wants to see, but it's definitely what I like from the Terminator stories. It's really fun. It's really cool. I like Colin Cracker's art. Really, Luke Sparrow's art really works on this. Yeah, Declan Shalvey and Luke Sparrow with the Out of Time story on the first issue. Now let's talk about the second and third issue because those are actually two stories that go in at the same time. The Apocalypse Then, part 1 and 2. This were, like I said, these are two stories that kind of go hand in hand. This is by Declan Shalvey with art by David O'Sullivan, colors by Colin Cracker, letters by Jeff Eckleberry. And I got to be very straightforward. This story, and I'll start with this before I go into the synopsis. David O'Sullivan's art, unfortunately, was not my preferred aesthetic. I think it works for the story, and it starts off really cool, but I feel like it just at some point it really devolves into something that it doesn't look like what I had in mind in the first few pages. I don't know if there was the different aesthetic, the different location, whatever the case may be. I know we have the same colorist as the previous story, so I think the story on this one is a lot of fun, and I understand why they even had to extrapolate it into 2 different issues. But yeah, the art is not my favorite of the trade, unfortunately. So let's talk about the actual story, though. This is set in Saigon in 1975. A private Edward Duggan and Hernandez are preparing for their impending evacuation when a T-800 appears via a time portal, wreaking havoc in the jungle. Bulletproof, axe wielding, and unstoppable, especially because this is an area where you don't even know who the enemy is, right? So this Terminator kind of showing up in the middle of everything puts a big damper on everything. So it was a really interesting story, like I mentioned. It was just really the art that it detracted a little bit from my enjoyment, but it was still overall a very good story. So I will definitely recommend that you check it out as well. And that's kind of the advantage of a book like this where all the stories are a little bit disconnected. It really works because they're all separate, right? You don't have to uh, if you don't like one story, you can just go to the next one, which is I think really cool. So, all right, let's talk about issue 4. This is the Whiskey Dark story. This is by Declan Shalvey with art by Lorenzo Ray, colors by Colin Cracker, letters by Jeff Echoberry. So it looks like the colorist and the letter remain the same for all of them. I wasn't sure. Now that I'm going through my notes, I realize that's the case. In issue 4, we go to 1986 in a deep underwater submarine during the Cold War. American and Soviet subs are lurking beneath the sea, and Skynet deploys a Terminator to provoke nuclear catastrophe. So in this case, I love that the Terminator or the Skynet machine is actually just saying they'll take care of each other if we just light the fuse. So this really features some really cool submarine tension and just like some stuff that we had never really seen. Right, the machines in this setting seem like just something that we don't see very often. I think the art by Ray really works in this setting. Very dark tones. It's very interesting to see Colin, the colorist, just adapt to every different atmosphere in these stories because they're very different thematically. And then I love the reveals. I think one of the really cool things about the pacing of these stories is that every once in a while we'll get the reveal of the Terminator, like when his face finally kind of comes off, and you see the red eye and then the skeleton that's made of metal. So I think that's really fun. I really enjoy this story as well. And then last but not, well, I guess this is the last story of the main stories, where we finally are going where I don't know if that Terminator had gone before. In the Gemini Rising story, this is by Declan Shalvey with art by Joe Mulvey, Colin Cracker and Jeff Huckleberry in their respective roles as well. This story finally takes us to space. This is set in 1961 at the dawn of the space race. Two American astronauts vanish en route to orbit, triggering alarm systems at launch sites in Florida and across the USSR. Hints of the Terminator stowing away on a space mission, threatening global escalation. This is it's really cool stuff. Like the this is the closest we've been to having a Terminator in space. And once again, I love that Skynet has realized like we don't have to go in and kill everyone ourselves. If we do enough, they'll do it themselves. So very, very cool. It's just amazing stuff. I really like this one. This one's probably one of the goriest ones when it comes to like there's some really gnarly stuff. Very reminiscent of like very reminiscent of the Alien franchise when you see some of that gore. So I think this really works. And like I said, seeing a Terminator in space, it's pretty incredible. So, all right. And last on this collection, we have the Buried Alive backup story. This is by written by Sal Crivelli and with art by Colin Cracker. So we have the colorist from the previous issues is now doing the art, and I think very talented artists. I really like their storytelling. I really like their work. So this is a series of like a few pages story. It's just little vignettes that kind of show up in every issue, and it's kind of a silent issue, so it's really cool. It's a very little mini arc that feels very heavily atmospheric, very stylized, and just very different from everything else that was going on in the previous story. So yeah, I really just like this collection. It's really fun. When I was preparing to do this video and reading everything, like I just sat there and read. Like I wanted to go to the issue 6 because that was the next one that's in the collection, or that would be outside of the collection, right? Uh, so just some real quick highlights here. Of course, we have the T-800 Terminators where they have to confront each other in the Buried Alive story. That was really cool. Like just seeing them. There's no dialogue, no humans, just two machines kind of going at each other. That's really cool. Like I said, with having to do a couple of pages every issue, I think the pacing is really important. So it really works as well. And then, of course, this is just I think it's a great backup story to give you a little bit something, a little bonus on top of that. I will say, I think it's hard to read them in each issue. I just read so many comics in between. I mean, not for this specific, but if I was reading this monthly, I don't know that I could keep track of what was going on in the last couple of pages of a story, right? I would probably retain the main story because that's where I live for the most of the issue. But either way, I like this. I really enjoyed it, and I think there's a lot of room for speculation in that last story. There's a lot of room for speculation into figuring out what's going on or what's going to happen next. But either way, I think this really works. This is a great collection for Terminator fans. And I think Dynamite's doing a bang up job bringing a lot of these properties back into the comics. So if you have read this book, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. And stay tuned because we have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.